Hello, welcome to the Alchemists Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily.
And I'm KristaLyn. And we have a really interesting, I think it's going to be funny just because I can already feel the energy of it, but a really interesting episode today that not only will it be probably funny, but also really helpful. This is one of those episodes that I would have wanted when I was younger, starting out and learning, because it's going to answer a question that nobody talks about. And I'm glad that this question came up. So shout out to a person who identifies as M on YouTube for giving us this inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a really good thing after this past weekend or past week, really, of like tiredness and feeling kind of disconnected and everyone's being burnt out, to talk about essentially like, what do you do when it feels like you're not connecting with spirit, I guess, at the core of it? Like, how do you get clarity? Is there something wrong when you're not connecting? Is that something on you? And also, like, when you're going through hard times, like, how do you reach out to spirit to have, your guides, gods, whatever, help you?
It feels like that. It feels like that Jack Sparrow meme. Why is the rum gone? But why are the guides gone? Like, right? Where did they go? It doesn't make sense. And it really, like, it doesn't, but it actually does. And that's what I'm hoping. If anything, I'm hoping this is the part where we can help the thing that on face value makes no sense whatsoever, where we can be like, no, here's the sense in it. And so here's how you can understand the meaning behind a situation like this, and then work with it to make it come back around.
Yeah, because I think it's a really common thing right now with everyone, because there's so many things going on. The energy of collective is pretty dense. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening. So it's very common right now to feel disconnected or to feel so tired that things aren't coming through. And so I think it's a fairly universal experience. And if you're not feeling that right now, you're going to at some point. It's just how it works. There is a misconception in the spiritual community that, like, when you turn on your psychic abilities, it's, you connect with your guides, whatever, it's this light switch that's now stuck on forever. That is not true. Basically, the best way I can describe it is, it's not so much that you figured out how to turn on this light switch that's now stuck on forever. It's more that you finally made it to the beach and can put your feet in the water, but they're still tied. So sometimes you have to move around to get into the water again, but you're now here at the beach. You're never leaving the beach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you have the guide's phone in your phone book or in your contact list, but they're not going to be texting you all the time, and you're not going to need to text them all the time. It's so normal, you guys. It's such a normal. It's just like having someone's name in your phone, because you have the option to call them up and they may respond right away, or it may take a little bit of time. And there are reasons for that in real life too, even though, the spiritual reasons to me end up being a lot more meaningful than the, like, I just don't get back to people right away kind of thing, which is totally valid. Not a lot of us have the energy to respond to things all the time. And some of us have to walk away, and keep that in mind as we go through this, because sometimes it's helpful to remove yourself from the full immersion of your intuition all the time. That is exhausting. I know it's really alluring when you first get immersed into it and you make that connection and things start making sense and you really just want to play with it all the time. But it's helpful to take a break. Wow, spirituality really is like a phone.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's so funny because I've actually used a similar analogy. Someone a while back was like, why would you ever ignore your guides when they're telling you to do something? I was just like, have you ever ignored a text from your mom?
Yeah, I just put my phone on silent for this episode.
Like, she wants you to do something because she loves you, but that doesn't mean you have to. It's the same sort of energy. And it goes both ways. And there's deep stuff here too. The big thing I want to start with is, you are not the magical, omnipotent one that knows your life plan the way that your guides do. So if you are feeling disconnected from them, if it doesn't feel like you're getting the clarity, it's not because you've somehow failed at something. And that is like the biggest thing I want to say right off the top. It is not because of that. It is not because you've now suddenly blocked yourself again. It is not because you've now failed at being spiritual or psychic. That's not it. Something is going on. It could be that you're being pushed to focus on the present and what's in front of you and deal with what's actually there. It could be that they're teaching you a lesson about something that you asked to be taught at some point in time. It could just be that you need to be like, yo, I need something in my physical reality to prove this to me because I am too stressed out to tune in. That is completely fine too. But it is not because of a failure that you might feel not the most intimate connection.
And if you are someone who is hearing that and all of a sudden feeling really bad about yourself and feeling like you've done something wrong and you're being punished, check your religious limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I say this because
that's what I was going to say too. I was like, that sounds like Catholic guilt.
Like you saw me reach for the grounding crystal because I had like this big pressure of like, tell them it's not because they're failing God. Tell them it's not because Jesus hasn't forgiven them or some weird thing. As a medium who helped people primarily in my church for a very long amount of time, like it was almost like this underground psychic experience. And it always amounted to me saying, you know, like God doesn't hate you. And then being like, oh, but he must. No, he must not. Like that's the end of this. So if you're not feeling connected, it has nothing to do with the amount of love that God or whatever creator you relate to or whatever guides you're working with or deities that you're connected with, anybody, even if you're working with ancestral work and stuff, they haven't suddenly decided you're not the cool kid anymore and they're not going to spend time around you. There's something going on. And I'm going to jump right in and give you one of the answers that I feel compelled to share. It's usually because when somebody is not ready for an answer, you have to wait until they're ready. Like, do you ever have this might just be my trauma, bear with me in case it is, but in middle school, did you have that friend group that you wanted to support them so much? And all you kept hearing from the people who were outside the circle watching you suffer, trying to help these people love themselves more, be better, feel good about themselves, and like tearing yourself down in the process. When people said you can't help people who don't want to be helped.
You were a much nicer middle schooler than most middle schoolers were. That's nope. Because in middle school, I just wanted to have a friend group, period.
That was the reason that I was trying to help everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was less help and more, how can I change myself to be liked?
Well, yeah.
Middle school was hell for me also. Like most of what I talk about in therapy is stuff that started in middle school. I had 4 years of middle school and only 3 years of high school because the world is mean. It was horrible. So it's not good.
The world is mean. But our guides and, you know, the all that is, if we want to just put it into a bucket there, that's not so mean. No. It's just tough love on occasion.
The world is mean either.
Yeah.
I was just over the whole thing.
Especially the world as an extension of the all is not mean, but some people can be harsh towards each other out of their own traumas and their own reactions. So yeah, valid feeling to have for Emily, for any middle schooler, and for all of us. But yeah, it's just that you are in a place where I also think of iRobot, the movie, where he's got this memory disk and he's got to ask it the right question to get the answers. And the whole time that's not the right question, detective. That's not the right question. And then finally that is the right question. But it took us the whole movie to get there. And it's really important that you go on this journey to discover the right question, because then the answer is so effortless. But they have the answer. It's just not one that you're prepared to hear yet, because you deserve the journey of getting there. You deserve the experience, deserve in a good way, as in you deserve nice things. You deserve to be able to explore on your own terms. It is almost like a preservation of free will. If you had the answers all the time, life would be dull. And if you had the answers all the time, you'd probably be your higher self, which would be a different experience than this.
The other thing too is sometimes, and this happened, not so much to me anymore, but it used to happen quite a bit. When you first tune in, when you're spiritually reawakening, when you're starting to figure out, okay, this is what I'm actually doing, when you're really focused on all of that, there's a wave of it being like amazing and this huge thing, and it consumes everything. And you're like, yes, awesome, fantastic. We've talked about this before. Then there's a time when it gets normal. And so it doesn't feel all magical and fantastic anymore. And there's also sometimes a time when you are using that to bypass real life. And the only thing that your guides can do to make you stop is to stop talking. Because then you'll feel, wait a second, what's going on? And you have happens a lot. And it's literally your guides taking care of you because they're like, you need to deal with this stuff right now. Stop spiritually bypassing stuff, like actually do the work. And that happens a bit. It happens a lot. Like it happens a lot, especially if you're trying to do something new. They'll get you going, they'll get you diving in. And then once you start to dive in, if you start to bypass using channeling or just talking, or oh, maybe you're just thinking about it instead of doing it, they'll cut you off really fast. They'll like make you stop until you do the thing, and then they'll come back. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we try to rush processes, and that's really what it feels like is the truth underneath. Like we get a little cocky. We're really excited about stuff. And so they'll be like, okay, but don't forget what this actually is. It's the, with great ability comes great responsibility, not to directly quote Spider-Man. I love that. But anyway, you have this ability, and everybody does, Emily, you talk about it all the time. We all have a certain extent or a certain specialization of ability even. And it really helps to be conscious with it rather than to just be, all over the place with it, and not to hone it and not to appreciate it and not to get better at it and not to understand the best applications for it. Like, can I just tell you this, the most ridiculous psychic ability I have? And this is gonna, for anybody who's ever watched Mean Girls, yes, I was called Karen in high school for this, for anybody who knew. I can see when it's going to rain, even if it's not cloudy, because I can see energy with my eyes like you can, right? And so you can see when it's gonna rain. Who does that help? Except for the fact that it like helps me go tit for tat with my meteorologist husband. And he'll be like, the atmosphere is not right for rain. I'm like, yeah, but it's going to rain. And that's all I've got. I don't know who that helps. I don't know what greater good that serves. But
I totally feel you there. I have the most ridiculous one where whenever I touch anything, fucking anything, I get some sort of useless information about how that thing was made. Why does that matter to me? It doesn't. It's not.
Yeah.
And it's not helpful information. It's not like I could touch a lost person's clothing item and be like, they're here. No, if I touch the lost person's clothing item, I would see why they chose the color red 75. Doesn't matter. Hey, and some of it is just weird. Some of it is just like that.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Like my husband and I will go on walks and I'll walk past someone. And here's another thing that I think is really helpful as we're talking about different abilities that sometimes people take to the nth degree, is being able to pick up on other people's emotions, thoughts, energies in that way. My husband said, do you experience that all the time? It's like, no, but it's like being in a crowded room where some people are whispering and keeping their conversations to themselves. And like, I'm not hearing unless I try to, and I'm not trying to. Other people are screaming. They want to be noticed. And sometimes I can be helpful for that. And sometimes it just makes me a little irritated that like, and you can see it in their face, like we don't hide that so well. So he'll say, oh yeah, I noticed they were this. And I'm like, yeah, it's because this, and this, and this. And I now know all of this, can't do anything about it. That person wouldn't, the loudest ones are not the ones who are listening. Also,
nope. And they didn't consent for you to come over and talk to them and invade their space.
And
so,
I
like,
didn't
there's no
consent to get their thoughts.
No.
Like, it's not a great connection. That is bad synastry. And so sometimes when maybe your energy is big, your guides are like, I'm going to let you have some space. I'll wait. You figure that out. When you're ready, I'll be right here. Or it's, any of these other kind of things that are the same as any of these abilities where it's just really blown up right now. And this was, I think, exacerbated this weekend. The weekend that I'm referring to, we had Mercury opposite Neptune, and they're both relatively strong. Now, if you give Neptune modern essential dignities, Neptune would be considered to be in domicile. Mercury is domicile and exalted, and they were what even is the world? There's some great things about that. But when they go head to head, it's like a lot of paranoia, a lot of overthinking, which is one of the reasons we did last week's episode. So a lot of people were freaking out over things, not knowing what those things were. And that has shown up in multiple comments that Emily and I have received over the weekend. And we thought, okay, let's address this, honor it, respect it, and then give tools for it.
Also, to move through that too, if you are going through a really hard time, and when we go through really difficult, challenging times in our life, sometimes it feels like our spiritual connection does dissolve, and it's hard to get like help and guidance because we have so much dense energy around us. We're navigating something really huge. Honestly, one of the easiest and best ways to work with spirit at that point in time is be like, show me the next thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Just the next baby step, like Anna in Frozen 2, like the next right
Mm-hmm.
thing. Just show me the next baby step. Just show me the next baby step. They will, and then you will feel confident in taking those baby steps because you've asked for them. And it doesn't require you to be able to hear them or sense them or feel them. It's literally just like, show me, make the world work, so I have to take this next baby step.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really helpful. I also, and I can't recommend this enough, doing a talk journaling session when you're going through those times where you record yourself. You don't even have to have your face. You can just have your phone open next to you, where you're just like, this is all the things that I'm going through, and getting it out of your space so it's being held in a different energetic space than your space. You can also do it in channeled writing, but I say talk journaling when you're going through this hard time because it's a lot easier to talk out your feelings and whatever's going on and vent in those sorts of spaces, because it goes just as fast as you're thinking, instead of writing, which tends to slow down your take what you're thinking and slow it down into like a measurable space. Unless you're a really fast typer, you can do that, but it really helps to just talk it out and flow. And that's where you're going to get a lot of guidance from your guides. It's going to where you're going to make space to actually move forward, all of those things, because you're moving your energy on purpose. And a lot of people have been going through some very dense stuff this past week. And so that's why we wanted to highlight that as well.
Yeah. It also helps to like talk to a plant, talk to an animal, talk to a person. There are people out there whose entire job it is to listen to you. Or, you know, you have a partner or a friend, or, you know, I cannot tell you how many times I'll be, can I get a I'm too close to the situation. Do I need to chill out, or am I missing something? Those are usually the two main options that I have found. When I'm getting to a point where I can't pick up on things, I'm obsessing, or I'm missing something that I haven't let myself think of, which is tunnel vision, which means I'm obsessing. Hello, I am a Scorpio, Moon, and Pluto on my ascendant. I do that. So it's nice to have a reflection from someone every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too is if you are feeling, if you're either like in that really dense space, or you're feeling this like dissolving of connection that you're like freaking out about, do something that sounds fun. I cannot stress this enough. Even if it's something small that sounds fun, like, okay, I'm just going to go for a walk in that new park. It's not necessarily the funnest thing, but it's something different and that feels nice. Or, you know, I'm going to go try this new thing, or whatever. Just do something that seems like a fun thing to do. If that's watch a show or play with your tarot cards or whatever it is that feels good. That is the quickest way to get back into your alignment and start feeling emotions and energies and all these different things that you're trying to do, because you're now throwing energy towards joy and higher vibration stuff that you want to call in. And you're taking time to simply enjoy being a human. And there's so much power in that gets overlooked and overshadowed.
Yeah. We forget that this isn't the lowest rung on the ladder or anything like that. It's not a punishment being here. This is a part of a process. It's an important part of a process. And many people have intuited and channeled that it's an honor to be here. And if we can say, hey, this is actually a really cool and interesting experience, you can give yourself more credit for where you are, for how far you've come, for how much you know, for how worthy you are, and then lean into the meaning of just being here and how important that is.
Yeah, absolutely. This seems important to share. I'm not entirely sure why it's important to share, but I'm going to, because my guides are like, poke. So, I was talking with a friend over the weekend about how every thought process starts with a question. And we all have one question we ask ourselves more than anything else. And if we change that question, we change all the thought processes that come from that question, which is super valid and super important. But especially when you are feeling like you're not tuning in and you're feeling really alone, start examining your question. Like, what is the question you're asking yourself the most? and then decide what you would like to ask yourself instead, and start by doing that. It's going to do massive amounts of belief work in very little effort. One of the main ones that I've always asked myself is, am I doing enough forever? That is always one of my big ones. And so consciously I have shifted and moved away from that as much as possible to, you know, like, how can I appreciate this moment more? Or what can I do to make this moment more magical? Or what can I do to, you know, be the most comfortable in my skin right now? Like those kind of things, just to move that energy. That's a really simple way, because you literally feel yourself like click back into alignment. It's the weirdest feeling, but you'll be like, oh, right, okay. And that's how it'll actually start moving. You'll feel more spiritually connected. All these different things will happen because you changed one thought process that results in tons of different thought processes. So there's that, because my guides wouldn't let me not say it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a ton of sense too, because the questions, you have to be asking the right question every time. And if you change the question, then you change the mindset and the outlook and all of those things.
Yep, exactly. So I really recommend examining that, and take a minute and think about it. Like, what is your biggest question? What do you ask yourself more than anything? Chances are good it's a product of your upbringing. It's like, there's a million different reasons why you have that question. You probably don't even realize you're asking yourself that all the time, but you are. And once you acknowledge it and move it, it really helps.
Yeah. And understanding that this energy that we've been talking about with Virgo season is going to be still a little bit of a staple for this week, because we have our new moon in Virgo happening on the 27th.
Yay.
Yeah. It's, you know, of all the moony kind of vibes, I think this is the one that is one of the least moony, maybe second only to Capricorn, where the moon is actually in detriment, and Scorpio, where the moon's in fall. But Virgo is just like, I don't want to sit and dream. I want to like check off my list. This is a great time for creating the list to check off, or, you know, for saying like what needs to be checked off like today, so that I can have a clean slate to start a new list with. And that's, again, not as magical on the face of it as we're used to trying to experience with moons, but it is part of the process. It is part of the cycle. It happens every year. And here it is for us right now. So as we're you can feel that we're sliding into the emotions of fall, especially as the moon has come into Virgo. So now we've energetically prepared. Now we are emotionally preparing for fall to sink in. Schools are starting up, all of that stuff. And this is the moon where we can say, okay, new goals. What are we doing?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a lot. Some other stuff going on at the same time. I'm actually looking here to see, because I don't do math, I do astrology. So, okay. So it's Saturday is going to be this new moon. And I've already written the horoscopes for this. They will be posted on TikTok. So no worries. But basically, if we are ready, do we feel like we're ready to talk about the new moon a little bit?
I actually think it's a really good time to talk about the new moon too. It is a really powerful new moon when I feel the energy of it, because it's very how can I describe it? It's very fluid, I guess is the best way I got. It's very like not emotional, but like fluid energy movement sort of thing. So like, I love that we're feeling fall, but also it's like little pieces need to connect, and it's like manifesting how all those pieces are going to connect together to get you to a goal, if that makes sense. It's like manifesting the process for the goal. That's, I guess, the best way I can describe it. So some things
looking
at the sky, like, where is it? Let me see it.
It's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, on the chart, there's so the fluid part, I think, might be really bringing in the fact that this new moon is Libra. Mercury is also ruling Mars in Gemini, who is also at 4 degrees. So what we get out of this is a new moon in Virgo with an overcoming square from Mars, partile, like within a degree. It's that close when this happens. So Mars in Gemini and the sun and the moon in Virgo, both in the terms of Mercury, which is cool, and governed by Mercury, who is in Libra. So this is us saying, okay, what are the next steps? Who do I need to inform about the next steps so that we can cooperate? I think that's a really huge thing, because there may be a lot going on where you're like, I have to do it all myself. That's not necessarily true, because you have to think about the pros, the cons, the will it, the won't it. It's a balancing act that we're kind of reflecting on as we're going through this. So we're impulsively saying like, I have ideas, I want to get them done. The new moon's okay, like, let's write it out, let's strategize it. And then Mercury's saying, okay, who are our resources? Who's impacted by this? How can we do this in a way that makes sense for everybody involved? So it becomes this like team effort kind of energy. And knowing that we do have a lot going on, Venus in this point is at a pretty interesting point in her phase with the sun. She's at Phasis, I believe. So it's a poignant moment for Venus, who happens to also be square Uranus in Taurus, whom she's ruling and not having a really great experience with right now, because Uranus is still quite close to that North Node, and we've been feeling that. So thinking about that, there may be some plot twists, surprisey things, some people not wanting to cooperate, even though cooperation is key in this situation. So it's a matter of really thinking, okay, as a team member, what's my function? How do I, put myself in my zone of genius on this team and respect and kind of support other people in their zones of genius, rather than trying to be good at all of the things? How do I say, this is what I'm good at, here's my cog turning, and here's how it helps your cog turn, but that's your cog. I'm not trying to be your cog. I'm supporting your cog. And that's like, it's clockwork in this, knowing that some springs may, be not twisted tight enough, or whatever you want to say in clock analogies, that some people, some things may spring out of, or spring to your attention. We'll put it that way.
There you go.
Some people aren't quite willing to be their own cog. They're trying to meddle with the other cogs.
Trying to glom off of your cog.
Yeah, it's
no
one of the
cog
things.
glom.
One of the things I have written down here is beware of what isn't said. So beware of the person stewing in the corner, who's probably going to blow up at some point. Like, keep things clear and communicative right away. This is why I say inform. Use that energy of Mars to, rather than let it build up and overflow and become anger, let it be informing ahead of time. Say, hey, this is what's going to happen. Be directive about it. Let yourself say A, B, C, and D. Any problems? Let's fix them. Awesome. Like check, 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 check. And that will be a lot more productive with this. And just make sure everybody's being treated fairly. If someone is cranky, it's because they're not happy. So this is a great opportunity, again, to be asking questions and figure out what questions they're asking themselves that are creating their thoughts, as you pointed out earlier. So it's communication is key. It's what makes the team work, which is what makes the dream work. And that's the important thing to keep in mind. So the affirmation I have for this is, I pursue both sides of the situation and act in alignment with the truth as I can find it.
I like that.
So yeah, assess the situation before speaking or acting brashly. Get curious and ask questions. Pursue sources in order to make educated and ethical decisions based on your researched values. So know why you're thinking or believing something before acting on it and becoming an avenger for that cause. If you don't know what you're fighting for, then you're really not, you're only fighting yourself, and that's not productive.
No, I think that's really good. I think the energy that I was seeing is a lot like that puzzle pieces to get to the end. Same thing, like you don't have all the pieces. You need other people to put in their pieces to finish the picture. That's very much what I was feeling. So I completely agree with the energy of that. And it's kind of nice to have a new moon right now, to be totally honest, because there's a lot of very intense angles happening in the energy. And so having a new moon kind of rounds out some of the edges of that.
Yeah. And of course, on the 28th, which is just 2 days later, Venus will oppose Saturn, which is a halfway point in the cycle that they started on March 28th. And we all know what's been going on since March. So just know that the world at large is experiencing a lot of things that initiated March 28th with Venus and Saturn, and June 11th for Venus and Uranus, and they're in their little square situation. So we're bringing up a lot of stuff from the beginning of the summer and beginning of spring, and just saying, okay, where are we at on this? Like, can we check in on this project management style? And you're going to be seeing that probably in the headlines and in your own lives. It being so close to that new moon.
Yeah, I feel that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be really patient with yourself, be patient with the stuff going on, and be patient with the people around you. That's the biggest thing that I can say. It's like I don't want to say it's cautionary, but it's more of like preparedness. But people are going to be really agitated really simply and really easily. The next like week is like really what it feels like. So
yeah. And the great thing about, you know, the fact that this podcast, that you guys allow us to do this every week, is that we get to say, hey, you're the one who's going to be like, oh, but I know why this is happening. So I get to remove myself and become the objective person and find resolution and solution, as compared to also getting angered and triggered and, you know, making the cogs, how did you say that? Globbing up the cogs?
Yeah, no globbing on the no cog globbing. That's
no cog globbing. Yeah. We need that on a t-shirt, because it won't make sense to anybody but people who listen.
Sounds like a big cogwheel on the back.
Don't be
I
such
love
a
it.
cog globber.
All right, geez. So a couple fun things that are coming up that we want to kind of hint at and discuss. In about 2 weeks, we are going to be starting a podcast Patreon.
Yay!
The crowd goes wild. But we're really excited to do it. A lot of you have actually asked for it and been really excited about it, and we would like to do that. So some of the rewards are going to include, first of all, it's going to have tiers, but voting on episode topics, asking us a question that we will then talk about on the podcast, getting podcast episodes early, all sorts of fun stuff that way. And we're really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to be able to interact in more ways, which that's the whole thing for me. Like, I just love being able to interact, and the feedback we get, the questions we get, the recommendations for like, can you talk about this? Yes, please let me know what you want, because that's why we're here. We want to do this to help. It's nice being able to talk to each other and catch up every week, but it's also really nice to be able to make a difference. That's very important. And thank you for being in a place where we can do that, and for enjoying it. We appreciate you.
Yeah, very, very much so. Also, the next 2 episodes are going to be recorded a little differently, and I want to go ahead and introduce those a little bit. Basically, Krista and I both have a lot of travel happening in our existence for the next couple weeks. And so in that, we were trying to figure out the best way to try to maybe coordinate schedules so we could still record together and all this different stuff. And we kind of settled on the fact that what we're going to do for the next 2 episodes, one is going to be me going live on TikTok and answering questions and recording that for a podcast. And one is going to be Christy going live on TikTok and answering questions and recording that for the podcast. So if you'd like to be a part of those events, please look out for that on our TikToks. Krista's is at The Real KristaLyn. Mine is at Liker of Words. Go ahead, make sure you're following us, make sure you're registering for the live event so you can get notified of it. And then you can hop on and ask questions, and you will be literally a part of the podcast as we record it, which is going to be super fun. Then after that, that's not in 2 weeks from now, when we go back to recording normally, that is also when our Patreon is going to launch. So that's kind of how the next couple of weeks looks. And we're really excited to get to like interact with you and do it in a podcast, live podcast kind of format. It's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to being able to engage with questions in real time and make those available to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm excited. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be really cool. And so if there is any burning questions that you have, we're not doing like psychic readings or any means on the live. It's not like that. It's like ask questions about stuff that we can give you clarity on.
Can't promise I'll give you a like personalized astrological answer. No, but I can give you responses to your questions about astrology, and I'll let you know the difference.
Yeah. And same, ask me questions about stuff, but it's not a reading. And I'm excited about it. The one other thing that I just wanted to mention, since I think a couple of people who are listening might be interested, is I am hosting a past lives workshop on the new moon. And there's still a couple spots left. So if you want more information about that, go to my bio on anything and you can find more info. But in case it's really for like people who are wanting to go very much deeper. It's the first time I've ever really taught any of my past life techniques, very specifically out of my like 15 years of channeled experience working with this stuff. And I'm really excited about it. But if you want to go deeper, if that's something that really intrigues you, this is for you. If you're like, oh, maybe casually, it's probably going to be really too deep. So just so you're aware.
Yeah. I remember one of the first times you and I ever hung out before we started podcast together or anything, I actually attended a reading with you. Like I got a reading with you, and one of your techniques that you used was very cool. And I have a feeling it's one of the things you're bringing up. I would be there this week if I could, just to see all the things that Emily can bring up in this. I will be helping to run an astrological conference, which I'm really excited about. But
you're doing another thing.
I'm going to be in Denver, but I'm going to be thinking of you tons, because that's phenomenal, and you have gold that you share, and I'm really excited.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it too. It's really fun to get to disseminate all of this knowledge in a way that can be helpful. That's outside of just like YouTube videos or TikToks or whatever, because it's a lot, and you have to be like kind of willing to go deep in all of that stuff, which is really fun. The other thing I do want to mention is we are going to be at Book Sounds and Crowns really soon, in like a week and a half. Really soon.
Yeah, because I get 3 days at home and then we fly out. It's perfect.
Yeah. So if you're going to be there, please come say hi. We're going to be talking all about the forgotten storytellers and other fun stuff that we're doing, that we're kind of announcing there. And also we are going to be doing like $10 one question intuitive readings with both of us together, which is a very interesting experience. Very few people get both of us at the same time. Hopefully we don't overwhelm everyone. That's like genuinely my only like concern. I'm like, when we get on it, it's going to be very intense.
We usually do well at our retreats though, where we kind of like go back and forth off of each other. Totally do. So this should be fun.
Yeah. So we're excited about it, and we're there as featured authors. We're going to be at the ball and the like Sunday meet and greet and all the fun stuff. So
we do have gowns and we have crowns.
We have gowns and crowns. On cake and books. Yeah. And so if you're there, or if you know anyone who dance. Weston's got a snazzy, so he looks so good in this. It'll be so fun.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for pictures. But anyway.
Right. But yes, if you're there, please come say hi to us. Please come hang out with us. And we are going to be doing some cool signing stuff and book stuff, and it's going to be really neat. We're excited.
Yes.
Come and say you listen to the podcast. Or if you know anyone that's going, please share the podcast with them and let them know they're going to be there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You will see us geek out if we get to see you there and you're like, I listened to your podcast. That's really fun when we get to hear that.
Yeah. We're so excited. So yes, thank you so much for listening. We have tons of fun stuff coming up. Remember that you are never spiritually disconnected. You have a team backing you. You can always reconnect. You can always figure out why the disconnect is happening, and it's never permanent.
And it's never personal. Like it's personal, but it's not personal. You didn't do anything wrong.
Okay. All right.
You know what I mean, right?
I do. I just think we need to end this episode. Oh my gosh. No, it's personally personal, but not like personally personal.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. It's for your benefit, not your detriment.
Total spiritual sense. I don't know what you're talking about.
It does. I love it very much. Anyway, we hope that you take this time, you take this new moon, and you
go make some magic.
I think to me it sounded good.
Oh my gosh. I sweat for those.
Bye everyone.
Bye.